Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Monday Positivity. Today we're diving deep into a conversation that blends the mystical with the practical, something I know many of you are craving more of in your day to day life. And my guest today is Tracy. She is a gifted, intuitive healer and spiritual teacher with decades of experience helping people reconnect with their soul's wisdom. Her work bridges the seen and unseen, whether it's helping clients awaken their psychic abilities, release emotional and energetic blocks, or understand their journey through soul frameworks like karma, reincarnation, soul contracts, or even Akashic Records. What I love about Tracy's approach is how grounded it is. Even when I was talking to her during this interview, I could feel that she brings spirituality down to earth, making it accessible, empowering, and relevant to the everyday challenges we all face. In this episode, we talk about how to recognize the signs of a spiritual awakening, how to start connecting with your intuition, even if you're skeptical, the role of somatic healing in transformation, simple tools you can use to live in deeper alignment with your soul, and many more. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual journey or have been walking this path for a while, I know you'll take away something powerful from this conversation. And for those of you who want to connect with Tracy, I have shared all the links to her website and socials in the description box below this episode. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. On the podcast. Tell our
Uh,
listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey into spirituality.
Okay. So my name's Tracy France and I'm an intuitive and I'm based in the UK. I started out as a psychic, a clairvoyant, a medium and tarot reader, but I also teach people how to develop their skills. And as part of that, I've kind of found myself doing more and more healing work, whether that's using the Akashic Records, whether that's using my coaching skills, Reiki, all sorts of other ways. Um, and then just helping people on their spiritual journey because we've got to heal ourselves to be able to do that a lot of the time.
Yeah, so I would, love to talk about that as well. We need to heal ourselves if we want to heal others. But you also mentioned that your experience with spirituality began in your childhood.
Yes, yes, it
Uh,
did.
would you like to share that experience?
Okay, so in my family, they really weren't into this. So by Harry Potter standards, we were definitely a Muggle family. Um, but I had these strange experiences like night terrors, sleepwalking, and we have this family trait which seems to only be in the women that we talk in our sleep. And you can have a full-scale conversation with me and I won't remember it. So there was quite a few of those sorts of things which really freaked my parents out. Um, but although I didn't understand what was happening to me because I was only like maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, for some reason I just kept this deep connection with spirit and this fascination. And so for the rest of my childhood, I was obsessed with all books about reincarnation and aliens and spontaneous combustion and witches and psychic and past lives, just absolutely obsessed with it. Everyone else was reading Janet and John and Spot the Dog, and I was reading about reincarnation. And then in my teenage years, I was just so desperate to be psychic because I thought it was just something that only certain people could do, and you had to have the gift. And actually, I understand that that's not the case now, but back then I didn't. So in my 20s, I was desperate to be psychic. And I eventually found what we call in the UK a development circle, where somebody helps you to develop your spirituality. And then I ended up suddenly doing this for a living because we had a recession and I lost my financial services business overnight. So I hadn't planned to do this for a business at all. But them upstairs, as I call them, they just got fed up of waiting for me to wake up fully, and they went, right, well, you're just going to do it my way then. And here I am 15, 16 years later and still loving what I'm doing.
Yeah. So speaking of like losing a business,
Hmm.
many people, go through these kinds of awakenings in life,
Yes.
right? And usually when we talk about spiritual awakenings, people think like it's a beautiful experience, and it is indeed. But it is also painful,
Mm,
right? What is
yes.
your take on that?
Okay. So I truly believe everything happens for a reason. There are things that have happened in my life that I would have preferred them to have gone a different way, but they've gone the way they have. I am who I am because of those. And
Mhm.
so if I change them, I wouldn't be who I am and I wouldn't have what I've got. So I believe that my awakening happened in my childhood, but for some reason I didn't progress with it until I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
And I think that you get different levels of awakening. So, like, there's the initial thing, even if it's just curiosity around crystals. And
Yeah.
then you might start having precognitive dreams where you can see things that are going to happen in the future. Or you might lose somebody and you feel the need to go for a reading to understand it.
Mhm.
And so it's like there's these different levels. So I think that yes, you do get the big dramatic awakenings, but I think for most people, it's much more subtle than that. Was
Right.
yours dramatic or was yours subtle?
For me, I think it has been like both, I would say. I had
Hmm,
a few health scares, and
right.
then I actually never talked about it on my podcast. I don't know if I will keep it in the recording. But yes, I have like a few stones. I
Hmm.
have worked with like, crystal, quartz crystal, clear quartz, obsidian, just to, repel negative energies. And the dreams one, yes, I do have, those dreams where I do see certain things and it just happens and it scares me too. Because
Hmm.
you don't always want to. I mean, if it is, something good is going to happen, that's good. But sometimes even like the bad things, the, yeah. So I would say
I
like,
tend to find that those sorts of dreams are often there. It's like spirit are giving you a nudge and saying, we want more from you. And people quite often come to me for a reading because they're like, oh my God, I'm having all these weird dreams and they're coming true. And I can tell who's pregnant, who's getting married, who's dying, or whatever the dreams might be.
mhm,
And it kind of freaks them out enough to need to go and get answers. And then they'll have a reading, and I'll be telling them that spirit want them doing something like healing or Reiki or counseling or whatever it is. And so, what I find is that once people listen to that quite dramatic nudge
mhm.
and then start to develop, spirit will step back and go, oh, brilliant, she's got it. We can just back off now and she'll do it in her own time. Whereas if we don't do that, if we keep going la la la, I don't know what this is, I think they'll keep sending us more and more things to force us in that direction, whether that's stress, whether that's a health issue, whether it's loss, but they will just keep lining up the synchronicity, I can't speak, to make us go and speak to someone that's going to steer us in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean that it makes sense because I think
Mm.
it made me, read certain books or reach out
Mhm.
to certain people even for my podcast recordings. But yes, I don't know what I'll do about it. Like, so let's say people who are, busy in their responsibilities, everyday responsibilities, what could be like, subtle signs for them that, their spiritual awakening is happening?
Okay.
Yeah, people who are juggling, everyday responsibilities.
So tech is a brilliant one. Spirit are brilliant at using technology. So you might just look up at your computer screen and the clock's there and it keeps saying 11:11.
Mhm.
The issue is that if we're really super busy, our mind is so busy, we're less likely to notice the 11:11. We'll just go, oh, is it 11:11 already? How did that happen? And then move on with something else. But the penny doesn't drop. Oh my God, I've seen that 3 times this week. What is that telling me?
Yeah.
Or you might be on Facebook and your podcast might keep popping up in the feed.
Mhm.
Now you might go, oh, that's really annoying, that keeps popping up and I'm not interested, I haven't got time for that. Or you might go, oh, that's strange. That keeps popping up. I need to go and have a look at that podcast and
Mhm.
find out. And you could do that while you're driving, listening to it, not the searching for it.
Mhm.
Um, or while you're in the kitchen cooking dinner, you could have it playing, you know? So there's lots of things that you can multitask with to help you with your awakening and your development that don't need to take loads and loads of time because, like you say, a lot of people just don't have that time.
Right. And how do you deal with the skeptics? Like
And
maybe, yeah.
um, over the years, I have learned, are they skeptic, but they need knowledge to be able to make a decision on which side of the fence they're on?
Mhm.
Or are they just, I'm not listening, I don't want to hear it, I've made my mind up? And you could get their, deceased grandma turn up next to them and they'd still go, no, it doesn't exist. So, in anybody that wants to be open-minded, I have got all the time in the world. But for that skeptic that has decided that it's mumbo jumbo and they're not interested, then they're not ready to have that conversation.
Mhm.
So I tend not to get into it with them. But most people are curious, most people are open-minded, most people aren't sure they believe, but they'd like to hear about it anyway. Okay. And they're the ones that are also having their awakening. It might just be a random chat at a networking thing, and I say something, and they go away thinking, well, that's really interesting. That really landed and resonated for me. And then they might go and do something more. So
Mhm.
it's all about little breadcrumbs a lot of the time rather than big things.
Okay. And I had a discussion with another guest on the podcast, I think last year. She also mentioned, so I was just curious, everybody can develop these gifts, or is it like a few chosen ones?
um, Everybody has it. Okay, we are intuitive beings, and to Nick Wayne Dyer's saying, we are spiritual beings having a human existence. Okay, so that would be like ignoring the fact that you're female and trying to operate without knowing that you're different, because women have hormones and women have fertility cycles, and men have a completely different fertility cycle, but it's part of us.
Right.
So when we're just here trying to be human and we're ignoring that spirituality, we're missing out on that connection with our guides and our higher self and the information from the universe and energy. So it's like, it's like being an iceberg and two-thirds of you's under the water and it's not getting accessed.
Mhm.
Um, I just think that some people are more natural, like some people are really crazy good at maths and they don't have to try. Other people, it's more of an effort. And I think with the spirituality, it's the same.
Right.
Um, I think that some people, once they start developing, come on leaps and bounds,
Mhm.
but not everybody is meant to be a psychic reader. Not everyone's meant to be a Reiki healer. Not everyone is meant to be a doctor or a policeman. So you have
Right.
to find where you fit with it. But even if it's just using it in your daily life, like how can I run my business in a way that is aligned to me? How can I live my day in a way that fits with my spirituality?
Yeah.
And so, even if you don't want to do anything with it, just having that access to your higher self and your guides and your intuition is a real game changer as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay. But like, like you said that, universe is trying to nudge you by,
Mm.
different signs and all. So is it like that universe is trying to guide us on our maybe before our, incarnation, maybe because I've read about, soul contracts also. Like we, make a contract, this is what I'll do in this life. So is it like that? Like for some people, they had decided. So uh, universe, tries to push them in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, the universe in my mind drops little hints. Sometimes they're really full on and sometimes they're really subtle.
Mhm.
But the universe knows where we're meant to be.
Mhm.
And we've got our main guide who's with us from when we're born to when we die. And they know what our plan is as well. And so they're gently nudging us and trying to drop little clues to us. And We can have soul contracts that we're fulfilling, but they may be our soul contract, like I need to learn independence, or they might be someone else's soul contract, like I've got to teach them to go and get anger management lessons or whatever it might be. So they're not always our soul contracts. It depends what we've signed up to and why we're here. Like, are we here helping others with their lessons, which also gives us growth, or are we here for our own lessons, or are we here for both? And there's no right or wrong.
Yeah. And let's talk about the concept of guides as well, or spirit guides. Yeah. What are they? And yeah,
That's such a huge subject.
yeah.
Is there anything that you think your listeners would particularly like to hear about with guides, or shall I just give you the overview?
I think you can give us the overview because it's like, I mean, I know the concept of spirit guides and I came across, like there was one name, uh, and I used to, see it all the time. And later on, came to know and I, did the research and all. But yes, for our listeners, just tell us like what is the concept of spirit guides and how they can connect more with, those light beings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as I said, your spirit guide, your main one, who's here to kind of get you where you need to be, they're with you from when you're born and they stay with you to when you die and they don't change. But then if you think of it like the school hierarchy, you've got the head teacher and then you've got the heads of department. Now, those ones could change. So when I started dabbling in the tarot, I didn't really need a full-on guide. Okay, I could have done with a first grade teacher and been fine. But when I started doing it for a job full time, I
Hmm.
needed a guide that was more experienced. So that one changed. Okay. Um, Guides can come in temporarily. So you might have one that's here to help you master numerology. And once you've mastered it, they go away again because you don't need them. Okay.
Hmm.
They can be souls that we have incarnated with before, and it can even be many times. But this time round, they've chosen to learn by staying in spirit and to help those of us that are reincarnating. And it may even be that they've finished their human incarnations and they're doing their spiritual work. So again, there's no hard and fast rule there either.
Okay. But how can we connect with them? Like through meditation, or is there any specific way to connect with them?
And I think it's whatever works for you. You know, I can chat to mine while I'm in the car driving somewhere. But initially, meditation's going to be your best way forward.
Hmm.
But you can have a conversation with them in your head. So, for instance, last summer, I asked a question I needed an answer on, and I told them I wanted to see a heart. Now, I was walking along the beach, and you don't see many hearts on the beach. And I literally finished asking for that sign, and I looked up, and it was a beautiful blue sky, and there was one cloud just creating this heart.
Yeah.
So that was them communicating with me.
Right.
Okay. But I had specified what I wanted so that I would recognize it when I saw it.
Hmm. Okay. I like to ask for, sometimes butterflies and rainbows. And usually I'll, get one. Sometimes even, someone will send me a picture of rainbow. So that's a sign. And
Mhm.
if someone wants to, live in more alignment with their soul, what are some daily rituals, or, how can they do it on a daily basis?
It's mostly habit.
Mhm.
And you have to set the intention that that guidance is going to come. Because if we think, oh, well, they're probably not going to talk to me, then we're more likely to miss that sign. And as I say, it might be that you're going, oh, I hate my job. I really need a career change, but I don't know what I want to do. And then down the side of Facebook, you keep seeing the butterfly. And
Mhm.
you might keep seeing chrysalis coaching, and you go, oh, well, that's a sign. Okay. And then you have to follow the breadcrumbs because you might look at their website and find out that, I don't know, maybe they don't offer the course in your area
Mhm.
or it's too expensive. Well, that's okay. You can go and find someone else that offers it in your area or does it online or does it at a price you can afford. But that is there just to give you that inspiration to go, oh my God, I need to go and do whatever that is.
Mhm.
Um, they will communicate through numbers, so 111, 333, 1111, all of that kind of stuff. Um, I haven't told this story for years, actually. Funny enough, I went to lunch with some girlfriends and they'd said to me, "Why don't you get your tarot cards out and start your business?" And
Mhm.
I didn't really have a lot of confidence in my skills back then. And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." And they said, "You know what? By the time we meet next month, I bet you've done nothing." Well, I'm stubborn, so that just galvanized me. Anyway, on the way home, I asked my guide if I should do it. And the girls had said to me, "Why don't you start out with the telephone lines?" And I was like, "Oh, that's full of charlatans, isn't it?" Anyway, literally, I got in the front door, the postman had been, and there was a letter from one of those phone companies. Now, I had never ever had a phone reading. So
Mhm.
there was absolutely no reason for this mail shot to have come through my door. But I looked at it and went, okay, fine. So I rang them, I got an interview, and I got the job. Then I got the sack
Mhm.
because my readings weren't consistent enough. So that's when I taught myself the tarot and I got rehired, and
Mhm.
here we are. And I can honestly say the phone lines are really hard work. So they are really going to test you and really hone you. Okay. So
Yeah.
that was how my guide spoke to me to go, "Tracy, you have to do this. Please take notice of this." And that was such a massive symbol or massive bit of communication. There was just no way that I could avoid that or not see that. Okay. But sometimes it is a bit more subtle and it is easier to miss.
Right. Okay. It is actually, ringing a bell in my mind. I could recall, a few incidents, but I also wanted you to talk about Akashic Records because just like,
Mhm.
spirit guides, this topic is also a bit, misinterpreted.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about that also. What are Akashic Records in simple terms?
Okay. So if you think about the Akashic Records as being a spiritual dimension, just like we refer to heaven, and it's a spiritual dimension. And imagine this is like your HR personnel file and it's got everything. It tells everything about the history of your soul, all the different lives it's had, the trauma it's been through, the people it's been connected to, the soul contracts, vows, and curses. It's just got absolutely everything that you could possibly want to know. Now, when you access the Akashic Records, you're not going to get shown everything. There's way too much information because some of us have had 3,000 lives. So that's a
Hmm.
lot of information.
Yeah.
You're not ready to hear some of that information yet, but when you are, it will be shown to you. So somebody might come to me who's desperate to be spiritual, but they kind of want to do it behind closed doors. They don't want to tell anybody about it. And they might have what we call the witch wound, where they spoke out before in a previous life, maybe as a witch, and then they were persecuted for it. So they kind of like don't want to be seen, but
Yeah.
they desperately want to have this spiritual business. So we can work with the Akashic records to resolve that trauma of being burnt as a witch, drowned as a witch, or however they've been persecuted, and just let that go so
Mhm.
that all they've got to deal with in this life is whatever they signed up for in this life, whether that's getting over limiting beliefs, whether that's finding the confidence to do what they want to do. So the Akashic Records is a great tool for understanding the people that we've got in our life, like a challenging parent-child relationship, or why you keep dating the same type of person and it keeps going horribly wrong, and then you find
Mhm.
out why. So it's a massive, massive tool, and it's a great way for healing ourselves, and it's a great way for bringing healing to other people as well. And you mentioned earlier about health issues. So we can sign up for these health issues because of the growth that they give us. And
Mhm.
that will be in the Akashic records as well. So,
Yeah.
what do I need to learn from having, I don't know, chronic migraines? Why have I got them? And then what can I do to get rid of them? And what have I learned in the course of having those? And it might be that your migraine comes on every time you're being asked to do something that you don't really want to do,
Mhm.
and then you've got a migraine and you have to go to bed, so you can't go and do whatever that thing is that you don't want to do. Whereas if you learn to have boundaries and speak out and say, "Actually, do you know what? No, I don't want to go to that function with you. I don't like the people that go there. I'll let you go on your own." the chronic migraines will stop because you've discovered your boundaries and found the way to speak out and say, no, I can't do this.
Yeah. And I really loved, your analogy of HR files.
Mm.
And speaking of healing, like you said, it could be like reading your Akashic records can give you a direction where you need to work on in terms of your healing. I usually used to have, problems in my solar plexus. And when
Yeah.
I also started doing, chakra healing, I
Hmm.
understood like I also had issue, with boundaries. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And working, you said that, if we want to heal others, we need to heal ourselves.
Hmm.
It's a profound concept. Could you touch upon that as well? Why is it?
Okay.
Hmm.
So everything is energy. We are energy, our words are energy, emotions are energy. And so if you read books by the great legendary Louise Hay, Deborah Shapiro, Gabor Mate, they'll all talk about how the trauma leaves energy in the body that will manifest as an illness. And there's a lady called Yvette Rose. She has a beautiful book called Metaphysical Anatomy. It's about that thick. And she talks about all the energetic beliefs that are at the root of every single health issue
Mhm.
and how to clear them. And so when we hold on to the trauma, and funny enough, your podcast that I was listening to earlier was the one about holding on to old emotions can drain your energy.
Mhm.
Um, and it's so, so true because we think that we've dealt with the problem when we were 5 and we didn't get picked for the sports team. But in all
Mhm.
likelihood, we haven't. It's buried in there and we just moved on past it and forgot about it. But now we might feel that we're not worthy or good enough because of what happened when we were 5 and not getting picked for the team.
Mhm.
And so it plays out later on. And so what I do is I use the Akashic Records and I also use my somatic healing. So I use like NLP and other intuitive tools to help the person find where that trauma is and let it go. And when they do that, the fibromyalgia will go, the chronic migraines will stop. And it might take more than one session to be able to make that happen, but depends how many years of trauma that you're clearing as well. But it can have such a profound effect on the person really quickly. I've literally had people who've had one session and they've gone home and they're like, oh my God, my husband says I'm a different person. My kids are like, Mum, what have you been doing? Because you're different. And it instantly made changes that were recognizable, not so much to her, but to them. And with that particular one, she had chronic pain in her chest and shoulder, and that went away because we released the emotions. So that that releasing of the energy is really major, and we can do it for ourselves. If we're not very good at that, then you can work with someone and they will help you to clear that trauma.
Okay. Actually, I had a question just related to that.
Okay.
How do you help someone identify and gently release, their emotional and energetic blocks? So I think to some extent, you already answered it. But if
Mhm.
you want to touch upon that again.
Okay. So there's no hard and fast rule of what I do, but mostly what I do is like, let's say somebody comes to me with the pain in the chest area.
Mhm.
I will then do what we call timeline therapy, where I will take them back to the start of that energy. It's like following a cord, and at the other end of the cord is the trauma from their parent dying when they were 6, or the trauma of a relationship breaking down really badly at 16, whatever it might be. And then we give it a shape, we give it a color, we give it a feeling. And then I ask them what they want to do with it. And it's like, oh, I want to toss it to the moon. It's like, well, go and do it then. And sometimes they'll physically do that movement of throwing it away, and other times they'll just visualize it. But the body doesn't care about either or, it just knows that you've got rid of it. So then it will release that trauma.
Mhm.
Okay. Sometimes there might be more than one route, which is why it might take more than one session. But it's a very intuitive process. there's no right or wrong answer from the person I'm working with. And sometimes it can get a bit weird and wonderful, but they mostly just roll with it because they want to be better. And so it's something that can actually be quite amusing as well.
Right. And speaking of your services as well, because we have 10 minutes only, and I want our listeners and viewers to know about your services also. What kinds of clients do you accept, and what can they expect from you? What can you help them with?
Okay, so I'm all about empowering people. It's about having the control over your life and what happens to you and what is in your life. And it's very easy to put everything on external forces. It's like, oh, I don't have any money because there's an economic problem going on. But actually, it generally comes back to our belief systems and our energy. And it can be in that past life. The other popular wound is the prostitute wound of not charging your worth, not feeling that you can sell what you have to offer without feeling like you're prostituting yourself. And so there's lots of things from the past lives that are driving the problems in this life, and there's lots from this life that are driving them. So I offer readings, I offer coaching to help people clear those blocks, to heal those health issues. And I also offer coaching to help people develop their own skills, even if they've only literally just started to get curious about it. And I'm just about to launch a monthly development program that people can join for a year to help move them along, because it is much more challenging to do it on your own than it is to do it with your tribe and other people.
Right. And finding, I think, your soul tribe, it's, very difficult. I mean, it makes you feel less alone as you start finding. But yeah, it's a daunting process.
It's also one of those things that you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
So I sat in a development circle for I think about 10 years. And quite a way into that, somebody was asking about clairaudience. And I think that I thought clairaudience was like we're talking now. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't hear voices, so I'm not clairaudient.
Hmm.
And when the lady who held the group replied to her, she said, oh, well, there's different types of clairaudience. Really? And all of our senses have a subjective and an objective. So the objective version of clairaudience is the way that we're talking and hearing each other now.
Hmm.
The subjective is an internal thing. And
Yeah.
I realized I was actually massively clairaudient. But my clairaudience sounds a lot like my voice, but it's not, what shall I have for dinner tonight? That's a different
Hmm.
voice.
Yeah.
So think of them as different pitches on the register. That's how my clairaudience is. And it's like a stream of consciousness. And I can tap into it when I'm doing a reading or when I'm coaching or teaching, and it's there, and it really added a massive dimension to my work.
Hmm.
And if you don't know that that's what clairvoyance and clairaudience is like, you're trying to develop. But if you're looking for clairvoyance, which is clear seeing,
Hmm.
but you're not very visual, you may completely miss out on the fact that you're clairaudient, or that you're clairsentient, which is you just feel and know stuff,
Yeah.
okay, which is the solar plexus.
Hmm.
So I think it just, well, for me, it helps to work with other people and get their take on it. I don't always agree with them. Sometimes their point of view, I'm like, no, I can't digest that one, sorry.
Yeah.
But it gives me something to think about. And when I'm teaching all those other experiences, I can say to my student, well, do you know that I know someone and it works like this for them? And they're like, oh my God, that's me. And so, although it's not my personal experience, I know that it exists, and so that can help people. So
Right.
I think doing the practical work with other people and being able to bounce ideas and talk about things is a massive, massive part of development.
Right. And do you think one can have like all also like clairaudience, clairvoyance, and can one develop all
Hmm.
these as well, or is it like one is gifted with one only?
No, you can have all of them, but you might find that some are stronger. So for me, my clairvoyance and my clairaudience are my two strongest. I
Mhm.
do get taste, I do get smell. I've made up clair eloquence, which is clear speaking,
Yeah.
because if you're a channeler, then I think that that is a real sense. So I've
Mhm.
made that one up. Um, but smelling, hearing, touching, which is like psychometry.
Mhm.
Um, some people just are stronger at some than others. Um, I do believe that you might only have one going on, but I actually think what's really happening is the others are such subtleties that you're not registering. So when I'm teaching, we do a lot of work with the Clairs to make sure that we understand how each of the people is
Mhm.
wired rather than this is how we do it. There's not a one size fits all
Yeah.
approach to this development stuff. So yeah, it's something that you need to understand what they each are, and then you can look for them in your work. And some might come and go. I don't get smell and taste with every reading, but I do get it periodically.
Yeah. And I also feel like when we get scared, then, sometimes it stops. Because earlier, like I used to hear voices. Even when I'm sleeping, someone will tell me, like literally,
Hmm.
exam is cancelled tomorrow. She's getting married. So it was like I used to feel like maybe my sister is talking to me, but there'll be nobody. So it
Mm,
was like, clear voice. Uh, but for some days it's been like, the dreams and all. And sometimes even like, while meditating, or one day I was not even meditating, I just came out of shower and I saw something. And later on, I came to know, like, it's true. But yeah, it scared me. So I stopped meditating also for some time. But again, like just to deal with, work stress, I started again.
mm.
And
And I think that's another good reason for being in a development circle
mhm,
because you can talk to other people. Um, and when you're on your own and you have things like that happen and it is scary, it
mhm.
is easy to just want to put the lid on it and go, oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so definitely I recommend people connect with their tribe and find those people that can help them to grow and understand the things that are happening to them rather than putting a lid and running away from it. That would be a
Right.
real shame. So I hope you do go back to it again.
Yeah. And because we have last 2 minutes, I will put all the links to your services in the description box below this episode, along with the link to your monthly development program.
Okay.
If you have a link to that, what other ways can listeners or viewers reach out to you?
So I've got a website which is tracyfrance.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Facebook. So I'll give you all the links for those. So you can find me on those really easily. And I'm going to do the page for the monthly one today. So I'll get that over to you as well.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty easy to find, is the honest answer.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your energy and time and your insights with our listeners and viewers.
And so
And
thank you for your time and energy as well.
yeah, and also